Midnight in the ER has its own kind of pressure. Neon light on the floor. Phones charging against the wall. A vending machine humming like it is all the time in the world. And you are in a plastic chair, gripping the chair arms, waiting for a doctor to come through a door and tell you what happens next. The event is simple, no update yet. But the mind does not leave it simple. It adds a verdict. It says the waiting means danger. It says the silence means something has gone wrong. It says your fear is evidence. It says a good parent should be able to force time to move faster, force certainty to arrive, force the future to obey love. Epictetus would stop you there. Not because the situation is small. Not because your child does not matter. But because panic is not proof. The first appearance is only an impression. The judgment is where the soul begins to surrender or stand. The doctor's timing is not yours to govern. Your assent is. The doctor's timing is not yours to govern. Your assent is. That sentence does not remove the weight of the room. It does not make the plastic chair comfortable. It does not silence the vending machine. It does not turn midnight into morning. It simply draws the line where Epictetus would draw it, between what belongs to your agency and what does not. A parent in an ER waiting room is placed directly against that line. On one side, the lab results, the imaging report, the doctor's pace, the order of patients, the nurse's expression, the phone calls, the hallway sounds, the door that opens for someone else but not for you. None of this is in your command. On the other side, how you sit, how you breathe, what you say to the person beside you, whether you snap at the receptionist, whether you curse the delay, whether you let the first appearance rule the next 5 minutes of your conduct. That is closer to you. That is where your work begins. This is not passivity. A weak mind hears not in your control and thinks it means do nothing. That is not Stoicism. That is confusion. The Stoic does what duty requires. Ask the proper question. Give the needed information. Listen when the update comes. Stand when it is time to stand. Sign what must be signed. Call who must be called. Comfort who must be comforted. But the Stoic does not take possession of the outcome as if possession were love. Love is not control. Concern is not command. Fear is not evidence. You can care without pretending the future is yours to arrange. This is where the parent's mind often makes its first error. It says, because this matters more than anything, I must be able to control it. But importance does not create authority. The fact that your child matters does not place the doctor's answer inside your will. The fact that the outcome matters does not make the outcome obedient to your preference. The fact that you would trade anything for certainty does not make certainty available for trade. The event remains the event. You are waiting for a doctor's update. That is the fact. Everything added after that must be examined. The delay means something terrible. That is not the event. That is a judgment. The staff does not care. That is not the event. That is a judgment. I cannot bear this. That is not the event. That is a judgment about your own capacity before the next moment has even arrived. Everyone can see I am falling apart. That is not the event. That is a judgment about reputation, appearance, and status under fluorescent lights. The ruling faculty must separate these things, because once they are fused together, you become governed by shadows. The hum of the vending machine becomes a threat. The closed door becomes an insult. The empty hallway becomes a verdict. A nurse walking quickly becomes proof. A doctor not appearing becomes a sentence. But none of these objects can enter the ruling faculty without assent. They can strike the senses. They can present themselves. They can bring pressure. But they cannot make the final judgment unless you hand it over. This is the discipline of the boundary. Grip the plastic chair arms if you must. Feel the hard edge under your fingers. Let that be the place where you return. Not because plastic has wisdom, but because attention needs a post. The mind rushing into the future must be brought back to the only field where action is possible. Here. This chair. This breath. This next response. You are not being asked to approve of uncertainty. You are being asked not to worship it. You are not being asked to feel nothing. You are being asked not to let feeling issue commands above reason. You are not being asked to become cold. You are being asked to remain responsible for the part that is actually yours. There is a severe mercy in this distinction. It removes false power. It removes the fantasy that worry is a tool. It removes the belief that if you suffer intensely enough, the facts will change in your favor. Worry may feel like loyalty. It is not loyalty. Panic may feel like preparation. It is not preparation. Repeated mental rehearsal of disaster may feel like vigilance. It is not vigilance. Your duty is narrower and stronger. Keep judgment clean enough that when action is required, you are available for it. A parent who is surrendered to every impression is not more loving. That parent is simply less free. The voice becomes harsher. The face becomes more desperate. The body moves before thought has examined the command. The next word is chosen by fear, not by character. Epictetus would not shame you for the first surge of fear. The first appearance is not yet vice. The impression arrives before permission. But the second movement matters. Do you assent? Do you say, yes, this fear is the truth? Do you let it define the room, the staff, yourself, the future? Or do you pause? The boundary is not far away. It is under your hands. Plastic chair arms. Midnight. Neon lights. Vending machine hum. Waiting. Not yours, the hour of the update. Yours, the judgment you attach to the waiting. Not yours, whether the news comes when you demand it. Yours, whether your demand becomes anger, accusation, collapse, or disciplined readiness. Not yours, the future. Yours, the consent you give to the picture of the future now forming in your mind. That is where the vigil begins. That is where the vigil begins. Not in the hallway. Not at the desk. Not behind the doors where the medical staff are moving. The vigil begins at the point where an impression rises and asks for your consent. Epictetus would have you look closely at the sequence. First, there is the event. You are waiting for a doctor's update. Then, there is the impression. This is urgent. This is threatening. This delay is personal. This room is unbearable. This silence means the future is turning against me. The impression arrives quickly. It does not knock. It does not ask permission. It appears as if it already has authority. It brings an image with it, the worst possible answer, the doctor's face, the call you might have to make, the version of life that might begin after the door opens. The vending machine hums in the corner. A child coughs across the room. Someone's phone buzzes. A nurse pushes through the doors without looking at you. The mind gathers every small sound and recruits it into one story. Something is wrong. But that is not knowledge. That is an impression. A disciplined mind does not attack the impression for arriving. It identifies it. It names it. It says, this is an appearance. This is the first report, not the final court. That distinction matters because the impression alone does not enslave you. The judgment does. The judgment says, because I feel fear, danger is certain. The judgment says, because I am waiting, I am powerless. The judgment says, because I cannot control the outcome, I have nothing useful to do. The judgment says, because this concerns my child, my panic is justified as command. This is where the mind gives away its freedom. It takes an external event and assigns it authority over the ruling faculty. It allows the waiting to determine the quality of the soul. It allows the unknown to dictate the next word, the next movement, the next expression, the next refusal. Assent is the yes you give inside. It may not be spoken out loud. No one in the waiting room may hear it. But the yes is still given. The impression says, you must be ruled by this. And the untrained mind answers, yes. Then conduct follows. The voice hardens. The body rises before reason has chosen. The eyes search faces for hidden meaning. The mind rehearses accusations. The parent begins to mistake motion for duty and agitation for love. This is the trap. The trap is not that you care. The trap is that you assent too quickly to the first picture care produces. You do not have to approve every image that love brings to the surface. You do not have to obey every fear that claims to speak in the name of responsibility. A parent's love may explain the force of the impression. It does not make the judgment correct. This is hard because the impression feels intimate. It knows your child's name. It knows what you would lose. It knows your memories, your failures, your promises, your private bargains with life. It does not arrive as a random thought. It arrives wearing the face of duty. But even then, it must be examined. Epictetus would ask, what has actually happened? No update yet. What has the mind added? That the delay is proof. That the silence is a verdict. That fear has the right to govern speech. That uncertainty is an enemy with authority over character. Now separate them. The event is in the room. The judgment is in the ruling faculty. The event is waiting. The judgment is, this waiting has power over my worth, my safety, and my response. The event is not chosen. The judgment can be challenged. This is not a soft exercise. It is a hard one. It requires you to interrupt the mind at the exact moment it wants to become dramatic. It requires you to refuse the false dignity of panic. It requires you to say, even here, especially here, I will not let the first appearance become my master. Return to the plastic chair arms. Let the hands notice what is under them. The surface is hard. The edge presses into the palm. That pressure is real. It is not a prophecy. It is not a verdict. It is only contact. Use it. Not as escape, but as discipline. The chair arms bring attention back from the imagined future to the present field of choice. Here you can choose not to curse the staff. Here you can choose not to frighten the person beside you. Here you can choose to ask one clear question instead of 5 desperate ones. Here you can choose to sit ready, not collapsed. The impression will return. Name it again. This is fear presenting itself as fact. The judgment will try again. Examine it again. Does this waiting command my character, or does it only test it? The assent will be demanded again. Delay it again. Not yet. I will not agree before I have judged. That pause is small, but it is the opening of freedom. It does not change the medical facts. It changes who governs you while the facts remain unknown. The doctor has not arrived. The update has not been given. The future has not explained itself. Still, one thing is available. Do not consent to the thought that your fear is sovereign. Still, one thing is available. Do not consent to the thought that your fear is sovereign. This is the practice now. Not later, when the doctor has spoken. Not tomorrow, when the facts are arranged neatly in memory. Not when you are calm enough to sound wise. The training is here, in the ER waiting room, under neon light, with the vending machine humming and the plastic chair arms under your hands. Ascesis does not require a mountain, a monastery, or a quiet room. It requires pressure. And pressure has arrived. The mind wants to run ahead. It wants to live 10 minutes from now, 1 hour from now, 1 year from now. It wants to enter every possible future and suffer each one in advance. It calls this preparation. But Epictetus would call it disorder if it has not been examined. So practice. First, name the event. I am waiting for a doctor's update. Do not add decoration. Do not add prophecy. Do not add accusation. Do not say, I am being punished by silence. Do not say, this delay proves the worst. Do not say, the future is closing in. Say what is present. I am waiting for a doctor's update. That is the event. Second, name the impression. The impression says this waiting is unbearable. Good. Now you can see it. What is named is no longer hiding inside the mind as law. It has been brought into court. It can be questioned. Third, name the judgment. My mind is judging that fear has authority because the outcome matters. That is the dangerous point. The outcome matters, yes. But the outcome's importance does not make fear a ruler. The child matters. The update matters. The facts matter. But none of them authorize panic to govern speech, posture, attention, or duty. Fourth, return to the boundary. What is yours? Judgment. Assent. Intention. Attention. The next response. What is not yours? The doctor's exact timing. The result of the tests. The pace of the room. The tone of someone else's voice. The thoughts of strangers watching you. The future obeying your preference. Repeat it because the mind forgets under pressure. Yours, judgment. Not yours, outcome. Yours, assent. Not yours, timing. Yours, intention. Not yours, the door opening when you demand it. This repetition is not decoration. It is training. A mind that has repeated the boundary in ordinary moments is less likely to collapse when the room becomes severe. But even if you did not train earlier, train now. The present moment is not too late for discipline. Grip the plastic chair arms. Let the body remain seated unless duty requires standing. Let the eyes stop scanning every hallway movement for a hidden verdict. Let the next breath be plain. Then ask, what is the next governable action? Not the ultimate solution. Not the perfect answer. Not the rescue of the entire future. The next governable action. Maybe it is to sit still and wait without making the room worse. Maybe it is to ask the desk, once, clearly and respectfully, whether there is any update. Maybe it is to text one person with facts, not panic. Maybe it is to say to the person beside you, we do not know yet. Maybe it is to remain quiet because no useful word is ready. The discipline is not dramatic. It is exact. Fear will object. It will say, this is too small. But the Stoic answer is firm. Small actions are where character is actually kept. You do not govern the universe. You govern the next act of assent. You govern whether the first impression becomes a command. You govern whether fear chooses your tone. The vending machine keeps humming. Let it hum. The lights remain harsh. Let them remain harsh. The chair is uncomfortable. Let it be uncomfortable. None of these things has been appointed master of your ruling faculty. This is the exercise, to remain a parent without becoming a servant of panic. To remain concerned without letting concern become accusation. To remain ready without confusing readiness with internal chaos. Ascesis is not the removal of feeling. It is the examination of authority. Who has authority here? Not the hum. Not the delay. Not the imagined future. Not the watching stranger. Not the urgent picture in the mind. The authority belongs to examine judgment. And examine judgment says, wait for the fact, refuse the false verdict, keep your conduct available for duty. That is the work inside the scenario. Not to win against uncertainty. Not to force the night to answer. But to keep the ruling faculty from kneeling before an impression simply because the impression arrived loudly. The door may open soon. It may not. The update may be clear. It may not. But before anything is said, one decision can already be made. You will not let the waiting decide what kind of person speaks when the moment comes. But before anything is said, one decision can already be made. You will not let the waiting decide what kind of person speaks when the moment comes. That is responsibility. Not responsibility for the test result. Not responsibility for the doctor's timing. Not responsibility for the fact that bodies are fragile, nights are uncertain, and hospitals do not move according to a parent's fear. Those things are not placed under your command. Responsibility means you answer for the part that is yours. You answer for your judgment. You answer for your assent. You answer for your intention. You answer for the next word that leaves your mouth. This distinction must be defended, because the mind under pressure loves false responsibility. It says, if I am not panicking, I am not caring. It says, if I am not imagining the worst, I am not prepared. It says, if I do not suffer visibly, someone may think I am not devoted enough. That is status fear wearing the mask of love. In a busy ER waiting room, public judgment becomes another pressure. You may feel watched. You may feel measured by strangers, nurses, relatives, your own memory of what a parent should look like in a crisis. The mind begins to perform distress as if visible distress could prove devotion. But character is not proven by disorder. Duty is not performed by losing command of the ruling faculty. A parent's role is not to demonstrate panic. A parent's role is to remain available for what duty requires. If the doctor comes through the door, duty may require attention. Listen. Do not interrupt from fear before the sentence is complete. Receive the facts as facts. Ask the necessary question. If a decision is needed, make it as cleanly as you can. If consent is required, understand what is being asked. If another family member must be called, call with steadiness and accuracy. If the update does not come, duty may require patience. Not helpless waiting, but disciplined waiting. You can ask once with respect. You can give your name. You can confirm where you should remain. You can keep your phone available. Then you return to the chair and guard your assent. If someone beside you is frightened, duty may require restraint. Do not pour your unexamined fear into them. Do not make the room carry the storm you refuse to govern. Say what is true. We are waiting. We do not know yet. We will listen when they come. These are not weak sentences. They are honest sentences. The mind wants a larger assignment. It wants to manage the whole night. It wants to pull the future into the present and control it by force of concern. But the Stoic assignment is narrower and more severe. Govern yourself so that you can meet the facts when they arrive. This is not self-blame. If the outcome is difficult, it will not mean you failed because you did not worry correctly. If the update is late, it will not mean your fear caused the delay. If the doctor says something hard, it will not mean your inner discipline made the facts worse. Stoicism does not make you responsible for what was never yours. It makes you responsible for not abandoning what is yours. That is enough. The plastic chair arms are still under your hands. The vending machine still hums. The neon lights still flatten every face in the room. Your mind still wants to bargain with the future. But the practice remains the same. Separate the event from the judgment. Separate care from control. Separate duty from agitation. Separate responsibility from fantasy. There is no virtue in treating every imagined disaster as an order. There is no wisdom in letting the unknown dictate your tone. There is no justice in taking fear out on the people whose job is to help. There is no courage in rehearsing collapse before the facts have arrived. Courage may look very plain here. It may look like sitting down. It may look like unclenching your hands. It may look like speaking one sentence instead of 10. It may look like letting the nurse pass without demanding hidden meaning from her face. It may look like telling the mind, again, no. You may present an image. You may not command me. This is how the ruling faculty keeps its office. Not by pretending the night is easy. Not by denying that the stakes are real. But by refusing to place the highest value on an external thing, even an external thing that matters deeply. Health matters. News matters. Timing matters. But virtue is the use you make of yourself in relation to what happens. The value error is subtle. The mind inflates the external above choice. It gives the update more authority than examined judgment. It says the news will decide whether you can be steady, decent, attentive, and responsible. Epictetus would reverse that order. Let the update be the update. Let your conduct be yours. When the doctor arrives, you do not need to be impressive. You do not need to look composed for the room. You do not need to win some invisible contest of parental suffering. You need to be capable of hearing, choosing, and acting without handing your faculty of judgment to fear. That is duty under pressure. That is responsibility returned to its proper place. That is responsibility returned to its proper place. And when responsibility is returned, freedom becomes possible even in a place like this. Not comfort. Not control. Not certainty. Freedom. Freedom is not the doctor arriving when you want. Freedom is not the update matching your private demand. Freedom is not the future agreeing to spare you from fear. Freedom is the power to withhold consent from a false ruler. The ER waiting room can hold your body. It can hold your attention. It can surround you with noise, light, delay, and unanswered questions. But it cannot command your judgment unless you give it that office. So sit in the chair. Feel the plastic chair arms. Hear the vending machine hum. Let midnight be midnight. Let waiting be waiting. Do not turn the delay into a verdict. Do not turn fear into prophecy. Do not turn love into the belief that you must govern what no human being governs. Your child matters. That is why your conduct matters. Your duty is not to panic on behalf of love. Your duty is to keep yourself capable of service when the next fact arrives. The door may open. The doctor may speak. The news may ask much of you. Meet it as a person who has not surrendered beforehand. The event is not yours to command. The impression is not yours to prevent. But assent, judgment, intention, attention, and the next response remain within your keeping. There, in the hardest room, the discipline still holds. Return to what is yours to govern.